Around 1200 BC, the greatest civilizations on Earth began collapsing, one another. Cities burned, kingdoms disappeared, entire empires fell. But no one knows exactly who was responsible. History remembers them by one terrifying name: the Sea People. For centuries, the Bronze Age world looked unstoppable. Kings ruled from golden palaces. Trade ships crossed the Mediterranean loaded with copper, tin, and grain. Great empires stretched across 3 continents, and their armies looked invincible. Then, in the span of just a few decades, almost all of it collapsed. Cities that had stood for hundreds of years were burned to ash. Kingdoms that once controlled entire regions vanished from history. Trade routes disappeared. Writing systems were forgotten. Millions of people either died or fled their homes. And at the center of this destruction, ancient records point to one mysterious group of invaders who came from the sea, struck without warning, and then vanished just as suddenly as they appeared. The Egyptians called them the peoples of the sea. Modern historians call them the Sea People. But even today, thousands of years later, we still do not fully know who they were, where they came from, or why they caused one of the worst collapses in human history. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how a mystery this old can still keep historians awake at night. To understand how terrifying the Sea People were, we first need to understand just how advanced and connected the world was before they arrived. Around 1200 BC, the Eastern Mediterranean was home to some of the most powerful civilizations in human history. In Egypt, the new kingdom pharaohs ruled over a land of temples, monuments, and enormous wealth. Egypt controlled trade routes, stretching from Nubia in the south to the Levant in the north. Its armies were feared, and its grain supplies fed much of the region. To the north, the Hittite Empire controlled most of modern-day Turkey and parts of Syria. The Hittites were master metalworkers and skilled warriors, famous for their chariots and their iron weapons, which were still rare and valuable at the time. Along the coast of modern Syria and Lebanon stood the Canaanite and Levantine city-states, wealthy trading ports that connected Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Aegean world. Further west, on the Greek mainland, the Mycenaean civilization flourished. These were the people later remembered in legends like the Trojan War. They built massive stone palaces, controlled trade across the Aegean Sea, and maintained powerful armies. And on the island of Cyprus and across the Aegean Islands, smaller kingdoms thrived by controlling the flow of copper and tin. The two metals needed to make bronze, the most important material of the age. These civilizations were not isolated. They were deeply connected through trade, diplomacy, and marriage alliances between royal families. Merchant ships sailed constantly between Egypt, Cyprus, the Levant, and the Aegean, carrying copper, tin, olive oil, wine, pottery, and luxury goods. This was, in many ways, an early version of a global economy. If one part of the system broke down, it could send shockwaves through the entire network. And that's exactly what happened. Trouble did not begin with the Sea People. It began with smaller cracks in the system that slowly grew wider. Historians believe several problems hit the Bronze world at almost the same time. First, there is strong evidence of severe droughts and long-term climate change across the Eastern Mediterranean in the years leading up to 1200 BC. Tree ring records and sediment studies suggest a period of reduced rainfall that lasted for decades. This would have devastated crop yields, especially in regions that depended on stable harvests to feed large populations and armies. Second, earthquakes appear to have struck several major cities in this period. Archaeologists have found destruction layers at sites like Mycenaeans and cities along the Levantine coast that show signs of earthquake damage, sometimes followed by fire. Third, and most importantly for our story, written records from the time begin mentioning a new and terrifying threat: raiders coming from the sea. At first, these raids seem small. Local rulers in the Levant and Cyprus send letters to Egypt and to the Hittite king, warning about ships attacking coastal towns. Some of these letters, found on clay tablets, describe enemy ships appearing suddenly on the horizon, striking fast, and disappearing before local forces can respond. One famous set of letters, found at the city of Ugarit in modern Syria, shows a king desperately writing to Cyprus, asking for help because enemy ships have been spotted and his own fleet is away on a different mission. Shortly after these letters were written, Ugarit itself was destroyed and never rebuilt. Imagine that king, writing a letter, begging for ships that will never arrive in time, while your entire city is about to disappear from history forever. This pattern would repeat itself across the region, again and again, city after city. Now here is where the mystery truly begins. The main historical source describing the Sea People comes from Egyptian records, especially the ones made during the reign of Ramesses III at the Temple of Medinet Habu. These Egyptian records give us groups with strange names. Names like the Peliset, the Cheka, the Shiklish, the Danaan, and the Shurdan. Egyptian scribes described these groups as invaders coming both by land and by sea, bringing their families, wagons, and cattle with them. Almost like entire nations on move rather than simple pirate raiders. This is one of the strangest parts of the mystery. The Sea People do not appear to be a single organized army from one nation. Instead, they seem to be a coalition, or maybe several unrelated groups, all moving through the region at roughly the same time, sometimes fighting each other, sometimes fighting together. For over 100 years, historians have tried to match these names to known cultures. Some scholars believe the Peliset later became the Philistines, a group well known from the Bible, who settled along the coast of Canaan shortly after this period. Others have tried linking the Shiklish to Sicily, the Danaan to the Aegean or Cyprus, and the Shurdan to Sardinia. But none of these theories have been proven with certainty. Because the Sea People left no clear writings of their own explaining who they were, we are forced to rely almost entirely on the accounts of the people they attacked, especially the Egyptians. And history, only by the victims of an invasion, is never a complete or unbiased picture. Some modern researchers now believe the truth is even more complicated. Instead of a single invading force, the Sea People may have been a mixture of displaced populations, refugees, mercenaries, and opportunistic raiders, all set into motion by the very crises we already talked about: droughts, famines, and the earlier collapse of smaller kingdoms. In other words, the Sea People might not have been the original cause of the Bronze Age collapse. They might have been one of its results, a symptom of a system that was already breaking down, made worse by hungry, displaced groups searching for new land, resources, and survival. But regardless of their true origin, the destruction they caused, or were blamed for, was very real. The historical and archaeological record shows a terrifying wave of destruction sweeping the eastern Mediterranean in the decades around 1200 BC. One of the first major victims appears to be the cities along the coast of modern Syria and Lebanon. Sites like Ugarit, which we already mentioned, show clear signs of sudden destruction, fire, and abandonment. Arrowheads have been found lodged in walls. Valuable objects were left behind, suggesting people fled in a hurry rather than being evacuated in an organized retreat. At the same time, cities on Cyprus also show destruction layers from this period. The kingdom of Alatia, most likely centered on Cyprus, which had been a major source of copper for the entire Bronze Age world, also suffered heavy disruption. Since copper was essential for making bronze weapons and tools, the destabilization of Cyprus would have sent economic shockwaves through every civilization that depended on that trade. Even more shocking, the mighty Hittite Empire, one of the most powerful states in the ancient world, appears to collapse around this same time. The Hittite capital, Hattusa, was destroyed and abandoned. Some evidence suggests internal problems, like famine and political instability, played a role, but many historians believe pressure from the Sea People, along with other invading groups, helped push the empire past its breaking point. On the Greek mainland, the mighty Mycenaean palaces also fell one after another. Sites like Pylos, Mycenae, and Tiryns all show destruction layers from this era. Pylos in particular has revealed clay tablets were baked and preserved by the very fires that destroyed the palace, giving us a strange window into the final days before collapse. Some of these tablets appear to describe emergency preparations, including sending watchmen to guard the coast, suggesting the people of Pylos knew an attack from the sea might be coming. After these palaces fell, the sophisticated writing system used by the Mycenaeans, known as Linear B, disappears completely. Greece enters what historians often call a dark age, a period with far less population, no monumental building, and no written records for centuries. City after city, kingdom after kingdom, the pattern repeats. Destruction, fire, abandonment, and then the wave of chaos reaches the doorstep of the most powerful civilization in the region, Egypt. Egypt had survived for thousands of years. It had defeated foreign invaders before and expanded its borders through military conquest, but nothing had prepared it for what was coming. The first major recorded encounter between Egypt and the Sea People happened during the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses around 1208 BC. Egyptian records describe a coalition of Libyan forces joined by groups identified as Sea People, attempting to invade Egypt's western border. Ramesses' forces defeated them in battle, and Egyptian inscriptions proudly record the victory. But this was only a warning of what was still to come. A few decades later, during the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses III, Egypt faced an even larger and more dangerous threat. Egyptian records describe a massive coalition of Sea People groups advancing on Egypt, this time not just by sea, but also over land, bringing entire families, ox-drawn carts, and household goods with them. This detail is extremely important. It suggests that by this point, the Sea People were not simply raiders looking for loot. They were displaced populations searching for new homes, possibly fleeing the very chaos and collapse happening elsewhere in the region. Ramesses III responded with everything Egypt had. He positioned strong defensive forces along Egypt's borders and organized his navy along the Nile Delta coastline. The Egyptian account, carved into the walls of the temple at Medinet Habu, describes two major confrontations, one on land near Egypt's eastern border, and one at sea in the waters of the Nile Delta. The naval battle in particular has become one of the most famous images from ancient Egyptian history. Temple carvings show Egyptian ships trapping enemy vessels near the coast, while Egyptian archers rain arrows down onto the decks of Sea People ships from the shore and from their own boats. Some carvings even show enemy ships being capsized, with warriors falling into the water. According to the Egyptian record, this strategy worked. Egypt destroyed the invading fleet and defeated the land forces as well, saving the Egyptian heartland from the destruction that had already consumed so many other kingdoms. This victory is often presented as one of the earliest recorded naval battles in human history, and it likely saved Egypt from the same fate as the Hittites and the Mycenaeans. However, this victory came at a massive cost. Even though Egypt survived, the war drained its resources, weakened its military strength, and disrupted its trade relationships with a region that was now in near total collapse. In the years that followed, Egypt would never fully return to the power and wealth it enjoyed before the invasion. Its empire slowly shrank. Its influence in the Levant faded. The golden age of the New Kingdom pharaohs was coming to an end. Egypt had survived the Sea People, but the world it had known before them was already gone. By now, you might be wondering, how could one group of raiders cause the collapse of so many powerful civilizations at once? The truth is, the Sea People were probably not the sole cause of the Bronze Age collapse. They were more likely one major factor within a much larger chain reaction of crises. Remember, this was a deeply interconnected world. Egypt depended on trade with the Levant and Cyprus. The Hittites depended on grain shipments from other regions during times of famine. The Mycenaeans depended on trade routes across the Aegean and the Eastern Mediterranean for luxury goods, metals, and raw materials. When droughts hit, food shortages followed. When food shortages followed, political instability and internal rebellions became more likely. When trade routes were disrupted by raids and warfare, the flow of copper needed to make bronze weapons and tools was interrupted, weakening military strength across multiple kingdoms at the same time. This created a dangerous cycle. Weaker governments could not defend their coastlines as effectively. Weakened defenses made kingdoms more vulnerable to raiding groups, possibly including displaced populations who had lost their own homes due to the very crises spreading through the region. In this way, the Sea People might have been both a cause and a consequence of the collapse, a symptom of a world already crumbling under environmental, economic, and political pressure, who then accelerated the destruction even further by attacking already weakened states. This is why modern historians often describe the Bronze Age collapse as a perfect storm, a combination of climate change, earthquakes, internal rebellions, trade collapse, and invasions, all hitting at almost the same time, creating a domino effect that no single kingdom could stop. Even after more than a century of archaeological research, historians still debate almost every major question about the Sea People. We do not have a clear, agreed-upon origin for most of the groups mentioned in Egyptian records. We do not have Sea People writings describing their own perspective, their own goals, or their own history. Almost everything we know comes from the records of the civilizations they attacked, especially Egypt, which naturally presented itself in the most heroic light possible. Archaeological evidence, like unique pottery styles, weapon types, and settlement patterns, has helped researchers propose possible connections between the Sea People and regions like the Aegean, Anatolia, Cyprus, and even as far as Sardinia and Sicily. But these connections remain debated, and many scholars caution against assuming any single origin explains the entire phenomenon. Some researchers now believe the Sea People may not even be one accurate historical label at all. but more of a broad Egyptian term used to describe multiple unrelated groups of raiders, migrants and mercenaries operating in the region during a time of extreme chaos and mass displacement. This uncertainty is part of what makes the Sea People so fascinating. They represent one of history's great unsolved mysteries, a force powerful enough to help bring down some of the mightiest civilizations of the ancient world, yet mysterious enough that we still cannot say with full confidence who they truly were. Whatever the true cause, the results of this period were undeniable and long-lasting. The great palace-based civilizations of the Bronze Age Mediterranean never returned to their former glory. Greece entered several centuries of reduced population, lost literacy, and simpler village life, a period historians often call a dark age. The Hittite Empire disappeared entirely as a major power, and the region it once controlled fractured into smaller successor states. Egypt survived, but never regained the same level of dominance it held during its golden age. Its borders shrank, and its influence over foreign territories weakened permanently. New groups and cultures began rising from the ashes of this old world. In the Levant, some historians believe groups linked to the Sea People, especially the Peliset, settled permanently along the coast and became known in later history as the Philistines. Around this same time, new political and cultural identities began forming across the region, some of which would go on to shape the Iron Age world that followed. In many ways, the Bronze Age collapse marks one of the most significant turning points in ancient history. An interconnected, prosperous, palace-based world came crashing down, replaced eventually by a new political landscape built on the ashes of the old empires. And standing right at the center of this transformation, blamed by history for accelerating the destruction of an entire age, are the Sea People, a mysterious, terrifying force who arrived without warning, toppled ancient kingdoms, and then disappeared from history almost as suddenly as they arrived. More than 3,000 years later, we are still trying to piece together exactly who the Sea People were. Were they invaders seeking conquest? Refugees fleeing collapse? A mixture of desperate groups pushed together by forces far greater than themselves? We may never know the full truth. But one thing certain, in the span of just a few decades, the Sea People, whoever they truly were, helped bring an entire age of human history to its knees. Great empires that had stood for centuries crumbled. Powerful kings who once ruled from golden palaces lost everything. And interconnected Bronze Age world, one of the most advanced systems humanity had built up to that point, was replaced by darkness, uncertainty, and centuries of rebuilding. The Sea People remain one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, a reminder that even the mightiest civilizations can fall, sometimes at the hands of enemies whose true identity is lost forever to time. If you enjoyed uncovering this ancient mystery, make sure you subscribe, because there are many more incredible stories from history still waiting to be told.